Okay. So most of us we've been running SheWrites for a while now. We stopped in between, we restarted again. And we had a 60-day book challenge. Some people took it on. We finding ways to get folks to write. They want to write. That includes me. And we start, we stop, we slow down. And so we thought having these panel discussions could be a great way for people to get ideas on how within your busy schedules, each one of y'all were able to write, what inspired y'all, and so on and so forth. So let me begin with a very simple question. Y'all are all very busy women. How did y'all start writing? And anyone can go. We'll keep it short because there are many questions that we would have to ask. So maybe Anju, you can start.
Well, when I started writing my book, I wasn't as busy as I am today. And the book started off my journey into the field of sex education. I was working in an ad agency as a writer, as a copywriter. And this book just came about because I found a gap in the market. There was nothing available when my son started asking me questions on sex ed. And I said, hey, I'm a writer. Let me pen a book for the Indian audience, for the children specifically. And I started writing, got hooked onto the subject, got sucked into, and that's how my journey into sex ed began. But I wasn't busy because I hadn't launched my company. I was still on a sabbatical from my advertising. So it was easy to take that time out to write.
Okay. All right.
But having said that, now that when I'm busy, I've already been commissioned for 2 more books, and the editor is sitting on my head, and I really don't have the time to write now.
Well, you're flying to Canada. The plane journey may help. Okay, Riddhi?
So book happened to me, Anita. I hadn't thought that I will ever pen down something which can help parents. Eventually, in my practice of 16 years as a psychologist and working with children, I saw that the same questions were asked and, same things parents want to understand. So there was nothing new that was coming from parents' side. And I always then thought of just doing something wherein it's my way of giving a tribute to my father. And that's how this book happened, Ajay Doshi, Meri Nazaro Se, wherein all the learnings that I had from my father or whatever he taught me, I wanted to put it out to the world, associating and it to the journey of a parent and a child, the conversations that we had, me and my father, and the learnings, and what I am at the moment is just because of the learnings, and I wanted to share them. That's how it came up as in a book format. So it happened, I would rather say, rather than being planned book. But now, yes, I'm already working on 2 more books. It's kind of a question answers on parenting, which is an easy, ready reckoner kind of for parents. So yes, it's in pipeline, but this was the first ever and will be very close to my heart.
Thank you. Mukta?
Yeah, so being a therapist and healer, I am very creative with my clients and I love creativity. And when I got this idea about words and words, it was there, it was all ready. I knew I had to write a book. But you know how laziness gets, and you're like, yeah, I'll do it someday. And pandemic happened. And in spite of the cooking and cleaning, there was still time for us. So the concept was ready, the intrigue was there, the creativity was there. And I just kind of said, let's do it. And that's how in that pandemic, I think I used the best time for creating something which was there in my dreams for a very, very long time. And it really, really made me feel, about my own awareness, my growth, my journey.
Okay, wonderful. Nirupama?
So I had interesting experiences writing, 3 different books. My first was fiction, which I wrote in 2009. It came out in 2010. And I was helped by the fact that I didn't have too much work at that time. There was the financial meltdown. And it actually was like, oh, now I can write this book. And I had time for that. And I just loved the process of writing Keep the Change. It's such a light, fun book. I enjoyed it so much that I just found myself doing a lot of it. My second book, Intermission, happened immediately 2 years because the idea was there and it was, again, very exciting for me to put it down. So I was able to juggle work. I remember I had a client in Hyderabad and I had to go there every week. And I would have the evenings free because it was in some remote place where I couldn't get out. So I was actually looking forward to doing my work because I would get that evening free to just sit down and work without distraction. Then I had a long gap where I was actually very, very busy and I didn't have the inspiration either. And Powerful, which is my latest book, happened because of the combination of inspiration, like, oh, I have this great idea, and determination, right? Like, okay, I think this is something interesting and important, and it was very connected to my purpose. So that helped me to actually go and grab time wherever I could and sit and write it. So I think whenever there's inspiration plus determination, you manage to snatch whatever time is there and pen it down. And now I'm actually in a way struggling because a lot of people are asking me what after Powerful. And I don't have, I have a little bit of inspiration, but not enough, and not enough determination to take time off my work, which is also something I enjoy, and put my head down and start writing. So, but I do want to write on something else as a part of it, and I'll make sure that it happens at some point of time.
So each one of y'all had a reason why you wrote the book. Something was inspired you, or a situation triggered a response. Like Anju's was, my son wants to know more about sex ed. Maybe others need to know. So, so Nirupama, tell me more about when you wrote, nonfiction, and then when did Powerful come about?
Yeah, so
how did that come about?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I started doing a lot of work with women as a part of my company. Glow is growing leadership of women. So in fact, there were three things that were happening in a way at the same time, which led to Powerful. One, doing a lot of work with women, coaching a lot of senior women clients, noticing some patterns and being intrigued by it. Second, I read a lot as well. I am a reader. And I was reading, a lot of mythology at one point of time, like Chitra Banerjee's Forest of Enchantments, and I was reading some other books. And I was able to see those very interesting patterns which existed 2000 years ago, which are still playing out at the workplace. Wow. And the third thing that happened was I wrote an article. I used to write a regular column on women at work. And I wrote one article which said, oh, it's so interesting to see that these patterns exist in women. And in Ramayana, you can see Sita, Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, Mandodari. And that evoked a lot of response from people who read it and said, oh, this is so interesting. I had conversations around it. Then I said, why not put it into a book? And the good thing was, I do identify as a writer thanks to having 2 books. Then I said, let me sit and put that in a book form. The first version didn't work at all. So I did go through writing one version, which was like, I wasn't happy and I didn't get. Then I said, it's not working. So I actually took 2 days off. I stayed in a hotel by myself, which is, the only way I said, I'm going to put my head down and do this. Isolation, no family, nobody nearby. I think this would have been somewhere in 2019. When I had the idea, then I just spent 2 days in solitude, wrote down the chapter, synopsis. Then I felt, okay, this is something that can work. And then it was an iterative process of research, interviews, and then putting it down. So I think it was a combination of just these things that happened. And I'm a working writer in the sense I do write something or the other, little articles, little posts. And so it wasn't a huge change for me to take off my coaching training hat and get into writing. But I think for me, the idea has to be something exciting for me. And then being the Rishika that I am, I like seeing patterns and things evolving. And once I sit down to write, I usually like to finish it. So that's how that happened.
Because see, in SHEMantra, I've noticed a lot of people write a lot. They write blogs, they do podcasts, they write regularly on LinkedIn, but not necessarily they're writing a book. Do you have any kind of something that you would like to share because they also are writers in their own way. They have not written books, but they write regularly. What could you suggest? How could you inspire them to kind of take the fact that you said, I'm a writer, they are also writers, and how could they take that and write a book?
Yeah, I think you have to, I think you have to be very clear about the why of the book, right? Why are you writing the book? Is it, to see it as a, test of your writing abilities? Do you want to become famous? I don't say rich because I don't think anybody can become rich by writing books. Forget that.
Except unless you're a Chetan Bhagat.
Yeah, or a J.K. Rowling kind of. And even Chetan Bhagat doesn't make money off his books. He makes more money by turning it into movie scripts. In India, you cannot depend upon writing to really sustain you. So forget that. Or you say, I want to be, famous, attain some kind of a thing. Or you see it as something you want to offer. You have this unique body of knowledge which you would like to offer to people. Or just the process of writing really excites you, or you want to leave something behind. I think getting clarity on the why you want to write a book, because you can always identify as a writer by writing blogs. Why is writing a book really important for you? If you can answer that question and use that answer to give you some fuel and energy, because you need that for the long haul of completing a book. Very different from having an idea to execution. And then publishing is a completely different ball game altogether.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So the personal journey of first getting the book out itself requires dedication, discipline. You have to overcome self-doubt. You have to stop in the middle and get feedback. You might get diverted. So you really have to connect a lot to the why and the big purpose of why you want to write this book, and do that every day. So it should be something that is really important for you to find the time, energy, space to sit down and write it.
Thank you for that. So, Anju, do you want to share what was your approach to writing the book? Yes, you said you were not very busy, but you still had kids and you had still a whole household, and you still, even though you were taking a sabbatical, it's not that you weren't doing anything. You're always
No, I was
busy.
freelancing. I wasn't doing a full-time job, but I was
exactly.
doing a freelancing.
I remember that. So do share, like, how do you inspire folks who are writers, who write different things, to be able to, if they feel like, if they want to write a book, because everyone says, I love to write a book. What would you like to share with them?
So I agree with Nirupama that you have to identify the why. For me, the why was very clear. I saw that gap in the market and I knew I definitely wanted to be the one to fill that gap, and write a book which was meant for children. So I think that pushed me. And actually, very interestingly, I wrote my book twice over. When I first wrote my book, I wrote it in a non-fiction format. I approached tons of publishers. It got rejected by a whole lot of publishers. One publisher liked the concept of the book, so came on board. But then they wanted me to write it in a different format. And then it just went on a back burner, actually. Then I pulled it out, actually, 2 or 3 years later. And by the time I had got into the field of sex education, and now my understanding of the subject was completely different. And I found what I had written was trash. So I
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think it's important to possibly just put it aside for some time and then pull it out. And then I rewrote it in what I call the fictional non-fiction format. So it's a book on puberty and sex ed for children, but it is in a story format. So then I introduced characters, and each chapter, as I wrote it, after I formulated the skeleton, every chapter that I wrote was a bedtime story for my kids. And if they liked it, or what was their comment, what was there, and then I went and incorporated it. I wanted to know if every chapter I wanted to end at a point where the reader wanted to move, okay, what's happening next? And I remember my kids crying and actually throwing a tantrum that we want to know what happens to Neil after this, what happens to Kiara after that. And that was a great, kind of thinking, okay, it's working. So I would say that, yes, find your why, create a good skeleton for your book. And it's also a good idea, while you still have the thought and concept in place, write one chapter and send it out to publishers, because the reviews you get from there would be a reality check too, whether there is a place in the market for this, or whether you think in your head that, yes, this is it.
Okay, that's a good tip to get started into the journey. So writing the whole thing, see if they test the market.
Yeah, but also don't get kind of put
Dejected.
off. Rejections happen. That's bound to happen. So don't get put off by that. Keep sending it out to as many publishers. And of course, we're going to be talking about publishing a little later, but I would say go with a well-known publisher rather than self-publishing. That's a different kind of a story, and guess we'll talk about that.
Sure. Mukta, tell us about what do you do in your professional life, and then how did you stumble upon this particular idea? And do share the title of your book.
Sure. So I'm a therapist and healer. I work with alternate modalities to heal the mind. That's basically the gist of what I do. And as per my profession of 10, 11 years now, I really found that in India, we still have a stuck mentality about mental and emotional healing. People still, come to me and say, don't tell anybody that I'm coming for healing. So, the whole message was not able to spread because people were shut themselves. They wanted healing, but they don't want to talk about it. The relief they got, the benefits they got. So it always became like a close thing for me that don't tell this one, don't tell that one. Two best friends coming individually, but they don't share it with each other. I've had cases like that. And as the healing journey continued, I realized there's a lot that I can offer, but people here are very stuck and they don't want to, come for their sessions or healing. And I realized that the way to spread awareness will be to write a book. And for me, because into healing, everything starts with words. And for me, words can heal or hurt. They can either create harmony or they can harm. So words are very, very important. They're a core of our communication. And we genuinely do not use good words in our life. Lots and lots of words are like really, really bad to use, but we are still using them because we are trained to use them. And that's why I wanted to really spread this awareness of using the right positive words, which can actually shift your own life and the lives of people who are hearing it. And when this concept of finding the words into words, it was like a big aha creative moment for me. And once I got that, I kept working with more and more words. I got around 60 to 62 words in my list. And then I knew I had to only use 52. So I had to, actually let go of 6, 7 of them.
So you want to share what do you mean by these positive aspects of the word?
Yeah. So my book is called Shine in Words. And the words are like the word plethora. Can you all see it?
Do you want to remove your blur, the blur from the background, if you don't mind, so we can actually see the book?
That is something which I really don't know how to do.
You'll have to remove your background and
you go to stop under
background.
video. You'll see that little thing go up there and uncheck blur my background.
In the view?
No, do you see stop video below?
Stop video, yes.
Do you see that little arrow going up? Just click on it. And then it says blur my background. Uncheck that.
So Anita, she would not be on blur my background. She'll be on her virtual background. So if you've selected a background, it blurs itself.
I think it's showing here. So I've written a word called plethora, which has a different meaning on its own. But if you see, I have put the word L-E-T in a different color. So the L-E-T becomes the baby word and plethora is the parent word. My whole book is about these parent words having a new meaning with the baby words that have been discovered. So each of the words have 2 pages of, understanding. And I've used a lot of riddles, jokes, fun games, stories, poems, because for me, everything is about learning with joy and learning with fun. And the whole thing is about having that energy, that excitement of writing and giving it to everybody who's going to take your book in your hand and enjoy the journey of reading too. And
yes.
one more
Gauri, yes, Gauri had a question. Yes, Gauri, it's words within words. Yeah, go ahead.
Nice concept. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. And the main thing for me is that I used to always think writers have to have like a Shashi Tharoor type vocabulary. They have to really put it out there, huge, big words, lot of weight. But then I realized, no, I think simplicity is the key. And I'm a simple person yet creative. Let me put my simplicity so that even if an 8-year-old picks up my book, he or she can read it and understand it. So for me, simple language, creativity, innovation, and that energy to get it out worked.
So how is this book linked to healing?
So the words are about positive words and the meaning and the depth of the baby words describing the words, the parent words, as I said it, with a new concept, new meaning. And it's also connected. I have written about chakras here. I've written about the mind here. All my concepts as a therapist, what I have learned in my healing journey have all just come very, very beautifully into the word journey that I went through, these 52 words.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank
Riddhi,
you.
In fact,
over to you.
Anita, if I may just come in here for a moment, I so resonate with what Mukta said, that write easy language.
Yeah.
Let's not attempt to do that, language which is like she probably rightly said, Shashi Tharoor. I think easy language, just people resonate with that because that is the language we speak.
Speak.
The language you speak should be the language you write in.
Interesting. Yeah, it expresses your own style.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I agree. Riddhi?
Oh, yes. So before I talk about my journey, I would like to agree with Mukta and Anju, because what I have focused in the book is absolutely a conversation, a life conversations with me, of me and my father, because I believe that the simpler, the better. And again, I'm dealing with parents. I'm going to give these books to children as a part of my workshop. So I always wanted to make it simple for them to understand that a father can behave in a particular way, a parent can behave in a particular way, and you can also disagree, but it doesn't mean that you have problems in your relation. It's all about relationship and it's all about how you take it up. So my father has always been instrumental in me becoming what I am at the moment. And he has taught me resilience. He's kind of being a friend to me, where I always say that parents cannot be friends, but he gave a space where we could talk, we could share, we could be ourselves, and again we were well disciplined. The conversations, the learnings, the daily talks that we had, that's me, my father and I, were something where I used to pen down since years. Okay. I used to write in a couple of my school books or my diaries, and somewhere my mother had kept it aside. I never knew that she's preserving all those. While I had my child, and when I started full-fledged my psychology practice, is where once I had gone to Ahmedabad and she gifted me quite a lot of books, and she said that this is all your writings, kabhi kahin kahin likha hua hai tumne, and see if that's help, otherwise you can dispose it off. And I got that to Mumbai and I kept it aside. Again, when I started rewriting or writing on the post on LinkedIn, on Facebook about my conversations with my child, is where I realized that, oh, I could always transfer this into a book format. And that's where 3 years back, I thought of just putting it together and, making it in a book format. Again, as I mentioned, that it just happened and I had not planned that before at all. But this book, that is Ajay Doshi, Meri Nazaron Se, it also shares a message that a journey of parenting, that and a relation between a parent and a child is not always good. There are differences, that there has to be some issues, it can be, but it doesn't mean that a parent is not good or a child is not good. It's all about how you nurture it. It's all about how you create a space of understanding and a space of absolute non-judgments. So that's how the book is. And yes, I'm glad that I came up with something like this, because that also got me on in a space where very few authors have written a book on their parents and related to some theme. So I feel that, yes, that's going to be in my memory forever.
Wonderful. How has it impacted people who read the book?
Okay. So initially, when I wrote this book, I didn't want it to, I went for self-publishing. And again, I'm going to talk about it later, the pros and cons of it. But Initially, I gifted a lot of these books to my relatives, my friends. Then I again started gifting to children who attended my workshops, the parents who attended my workshops. And then it is also on Amazon, Flipkart, and everywhere. So I got to know recently that almost 3,000 plus copies have been sold. So I wasn't expecting this. But the feedback that I've got is from the reader who is youngest, I would say, because she's just 8.5. And the mother came back and told me that Riddhi, she must have read this book for 4 times. And it is so simple to understand that now the conversations that I have with my child are absolutely different. And that's why she, in fact, motivated me to read this book. So I feel that even if it's going to enhance, a relationship between a parent and a child, and it's just worth it. It's just worth it.
All right. What I've observed, talking to writers, even in the past session, is that, and also with some folks around SheMantra about writing, and that includes me, there is how could I put it? There is a need to write. Like they say, most people die with a book in them. You've heard about it, right? When you know that, and what is it that gets folks to be shy about expressing themselves? That includes me, okay? And I'll be looking for an answer myself. Everyone tells me, you travel the world, you work globally, you've done things on your own that at the time and the era where women didn't step out to do things you did. Why don't you write things that you learned as a result of not just the business, but the personal and the business or anything, or make it a story or a fiction, and help people who are struggling to stand on their own feet even today, for example. Through my coaching, I hear a lot of people women I work with, or men that I work with, they want visibility. They want to know how to speak up with their stakeholders. And I have so much data, but I don't write. And not just me, I know a lot of folks who have the same challenge. They have a lot of information. Like Nirupama said, that I worked with a lot of women, with leaders, and then she stepped out and did what she did. A lot of us have that data, and we want to share it, and we want to create it. Yes, understanding the why is there, but what is it that, according to you, could be that little catalyst that could move people to write? Knowing everything that they do,
Yeah.
So Nirupama,
Maybe I'll go with that, Anita, because I also did a couple of workshops coaching women who wanted to write. So it was very interesting, and it holds the same for me. Right. So even for my first book, Keep the Change, I think it's just fear. Right. And we all are so tuned to be in our comfort zone where we are happy and safe and comfortable. But the moment you write a book, you are putting yourself out. You're leaving yourself open to judgment. There is fear of rejection. Of course, first, rejection from publishers. Second, maybe the rejection from authors. Fear of not being as good as you would like to be or as you think you are. So I think it's just overcoming some of these fears that we have, and it's very normal, legitimate fear. So even though my first book was a bestseller, it did extremely well, I went through a lot of self-doubt and hesitation to write the second one. And writing Powerful after a gap of close to 8 years, I still went through, is it good enough? Am I really adding value here? What am I saying that hasn't been said before? Will I be judged for this? Will it actually be of any use? So all those fears and doubts protect us and they keep us safe, right? They say, but I think that's why your dream or purpose has to be bigger than these fears.
Yes.
And I think very often I hear writers saying, I don't have the time, but I think that's really the big excuse. It's always easy to blame it on time and say, oh, I don't have time and I'm so busy doing more worthwhile things rather than chase this, useless dream and it might not even come to much. And then there's the fear of putting all your energy into a book, and then what if it gets rejected and nobody wants to publish it?
Yeah,
So I
thank
think
you.
it's very normal and legitimate to have all of these, which keeps us from sitting down and writing.
I can
I
completely
think
relate.
what you're saying is that we are competent in what we do. We are stars and so-called. We are comfortable in our success. We know ourselves, and we know we have attained a certain level of recognition and so on and so forth. This is a new competency to develop at the same time. And I can see now that when you share that, it can be a potentially like, I may fail in this, and then how would that help me? Is it that, or how, if I could fail, and how would that reflect on me, for example?
I mean, I think everybody has maybe a different inner critic.
Okay.
And some are louder, right? I'm not good enough is louder for some people. I'm actually, it'll be a wasted effort, could be an inner critic. So I think it's important to identify what is your inner critic or your self-limiting belief, which could be different for different people. And I know people who are not experts, who are also who venture out and write. So I think it's important to figure out what's that inner voice that is keeping you from writing.
Okay, ladies, can you all unmute yourself and quickly share what is your inner critic telling you? I'm just going to go gallery view. You want to share what is your inner critic that stops you? Nirupama's here. Maybe she can help us. And so are the other authors. Does anyone want to ask or share?
Can I share?
Yes, Nishka.
So I have written 8 books for different authors. Like I'm a ghostwriter myself, right? One thing is what Nirupama has said, I can see it clearly in many of the people who come to me and who don't end up writing. Is if their why is not strong enough for writing. If it is not forcing them, it is not like something that's not keeping them awake in the night, that this story I have to share, then it's not enough. Some people want to write because it's a FOMO, because it's, so many people in my industry have written, I want to write too. When people come like that, it will take them time, right? They might reach a point where they say that now I will write, right? Having said that, having written 8 books, I have my own book, which is lying in the back burners, right? It's fiction. It's a children's fiction. It's something that is just, I want to write just for myself, Again, all the doubts are there for me when I write it for myself. So yes, the doubts are real, and I can justify it by many reasons. There's time I want to focus on my work. This is completely different, like a 360 degrees tangent from my work, completely different from my work. So it requires a whole different brain to work on that kind of a book. So all those kind of things are there. And I think the biggest thing is the why. My why right now is not strong enough to write my book. It's not keeping me awake at night. So I know there will be a time when I will say, now I can't keep it aside anymore. I've written it completely 3 times. And I've changed it around 3 times, right? So it will come.
Okay. But so the question on the table, Isha, Gauri, is Usha, since you're on the video, what was your inner critic that keeps you from doing your work? Yes, Gauri.
Okay. So, like I mentioned the last time, my mother is already a published author, and she
Yes.
spoke to one of her publishers who showed a lot of interest in soft skills when he came to know that I'm a soft skills trainer. And he says, oh, the general public needs it and we need to have it in Marathi. And I'm a trilingual. I mean, if I write a book, I'm very clear that it's going to be in Marathi and not in English, especially on soft skills, because there is a definite gap in the segment where, this would be useful. Now, my question is, with technology going so much ahead, would anybody want to read? Because now the youngsters for whom I would be writing a book may not be reading it, they would be listening or watching videos or something to that extent, And then if I have to write a book, it has to be in a very different format. Also, being in the regional language, the crowd, the Marathi speaking children in the cities are very different from the Marathi speaking in the tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Right.
So if you take away Mumbai and Pune, it is a different, at times a different language actually, you know. So that is what has kind of stopped me. My mother is very keen that I write, because I used to narrate a whole lot of stories to her, and then she says, why don't you write a book, because there is a book in you. I said, no, you writing enough, and having seen you write so many is more than enough for me. My husband's book came out today.
Oh,
Okay,
congratulations.
so he co-authored a book today. Yeah. So now, you know, it's like my husband saying, do you think there is pressure now on you to write? I said, no, I don't think there is pressure on me to write now. Though my mother would always feel that. And maybe it will come. And like, my why is not that strong. I know there is something there out which may be required, but I don't know whether it should be an audio book or a written book. I feel I may be able to narrate better when I speak rather than when I write. I'm not sure. So that has been my self-critique.
So this brings another topic that somehow, Gauri, thank you for that, is that one can start with just co-authoring. That means you write one chapter, and that it can probably break the barrier. Like you just said about your husband, I think we could all say, I co-authored a book. That itself starts creating a certain amount of chutzpah in you to say, okay, I can do it now. You're in the role. And Gauri, as far as your why is concerned about, if you're more articulate, then go with articulation, go with podcast, go with an audiobook. You see, the stay in the flow is what I'm hearing all the authors between now and then, is that stay in the flow and work what works well with you.
True.
Right. So like you, I know a couple of people who prefer to create audiobooks because they're more articulate when they speak rather than writing.
Right.
And they have followed that that will, yeah, they have, and they have succeeded in it because they're working with their competency.
Right.
Who they are. You don't have to be your mom, or you don't have to be your husband.
True,
So
absolutely.
but the book in you, as your husband said, and your mom said, make yourself happy.
yeah, right now. So it is there. I had written a whole lot of chapters, and that time Google Transliterate was not there. So and I just took some help from Indic tools, and I've typed out everything in Devanagari. So that was a bit of an effort, you know. The text to speech was not as sophisticated as it is today. You know, today my job, if I have to write, will be a lot easier when I do a text to speech. So it'll come in that flow too. Maybe I can just revisit the whole thing and maybe visit the publisher once more, tap him out, and make it easy. You know, it's just that I don't have my mom's discipline to sit and write every day.
So my invitation to you, Gauri, would be that whatever process you use or you start moving towards, share it in the SheWrites group, and hopefully somebody else would get inspired by the action that you take in whichever way you take.
Okay, that's a good idea. I think.
Yeah, and then we are here to, I'm sure then everyone was, all of them are in the group, can support you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Deep. Okay, we can see you. Okay, you're clapping. Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you.
So I just wanted to share my entire journey. So I am a financial advisor, and I write a blog as well, and I've been in finance for the last 20 odd years, and all throughout I saw that women really tend to take a backseat where finance and investment is concerned. So that's when I decided to start, and I started writing a blog called Womania, which is about 6 years back now. So I have been writing a blog in a, the whole objective was that, keep it simple. Probably that's the reason why, women don't read about it or want to get into it. So keep the language very simple so that everybody understands. So I have been, consistently as consistently as I try, I try to be consistent, and I do write a blog on that, and I keep doing it. And then I realized, okay, maybe, I need to now, since I do blog, maybe I should now start looking at writing a book as well. So I did start the journey, and I think as I started writing, writing a blog of just a 500 words or 1,000 words is obviously different from writing a 200-page book, right? So then when I started, and I think I started the whole thing, and I started writing, and I kind of made a framework, and I knew what I wanted to do with it, and things like that. And then I think got overwhelmed by the whole prospect of writing 200-page book. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to write 60,000. Literally, I was sitting and counting, and I'm like, okay, it's 60,000 words. How will I write? Do I have that much content? Will I be able to write? And all the points that Nirupama mentioned, to put myself out there, I think in that entire, self-doubt of, will I be able to complete? And if I do, am I doing justice? Am I talking crap? Am I really making sense? Will I be able to, all those self-doubts came into my mind. And although I have started it, and I wrote quite extensively, and then I just left it. Don't ask me. And I'm struggling to, pick it up again and, bring it to its completion. So,
Usha, can I come in here and tell you
yes.
something? So my sister-in-law used to write blogs, and she wanted to write a book. So she took all our blogs because they were all on one topic. I'm presuming yours are too, as you're talking about financial literacy for women.
Yeah.
And she made it into a book.
Okay.
So each blog was a chapter. It was just 500 words each chapter, but there were multiple chapters. And then she kind of connected each one to that. It was picked up by Penguin India, and Penguin India published it, and it did extremely well. So maybe that is something you can look at. Just take your blogs, and you don't have to write anymore. Just create a book with that. Just see how it flows from one to the other. That's all.
Okay.
Maybe that could be a beginning instead of writing a fresh new one. You've already written so much.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a good
Can
idea.
I
I never
add one more
thought that.
thing to this? One more
Yeah.
thing, because as
Yeah.
blogs is a brilliant idea, and you've already written so much, so that's wonderful. I'm sorry, my son has a class right now, so he'll be talking in between. But the thing is that you don't need 60,000 words. A printed page will have 250 to 300 words, one page, depending on the formatting. So it will be between 45,000 to like 55,000 words. You can break it down in your head. Like, I can make 12 chapters of say 2,000 words, or of 14 chapters or something like that. And you can have one topic. You can take your blog post as a starting point and just add some more if you want, or leave, because sometimes
So
blog
my
posts
whole,
feel.
sorry, but my
I'm
whole,
just saying to add.
Sure, I see your point, and I think I would be able to do that. My only, the reason I was thinking that all this is there in my blog, so should it be converted into a book then?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because a blog can convert it into a podcast. A blog
Your
can be
blog
converted
audience
into a
is different,
podcast.
Usha.
A podcast can be converted into a book. It can be converted into a small LinkedIn post. You can rework your content as and how you want to do it, because the audience for like we say, for Instagram, the audience is different. For Facebook and LinkedIn, the audience is different, right? So the audience will be different.
Okay. And I would say, Usha, it's just about finding, is there a recurring theme for all your blogs? Are they all about one big thing? Then that becomes your book, right? Helping women become financially independent or whatever. Everything is around that theme. Then it's about just tweaking your blog content around that large theme, and then taking 5 of those, putting it in chapter 1. Let's say taxes is one, or investments is one, and then making it into a book format. A lot of authors compile their columns together into a book, like Santosh Desai has done it very well with his City Bang Bang. A lot of leading columnists just put it together. People read them because they are already a famous established person, but the same thing can go for combining it into a theme. So I think, so just if you just take a zoom out and look at all the blogs, what are they really all about? And then come back to it and say, okay, there is a recurring pattern in my blogs, and I can put these 5 together, and those become your chapters. So then it's much easier. Throw in some anecdotes, throw in some, personal stories of women who have, done this and, how they have benefited. And, and it's not very different. Then it doesn't look like X number of words.
Herculean task, yeah.
And I think you should never start by putting a limit of number of words. If it's fiction, it takes its own form. If it is non-fiction, then, like me, I have a weakness for research. I'll go on reading, and then I'll find more things to put into it. So you don't want to start by saying, 45,000. It's okay. Start with 20. Complete it. Go back and you have a skeleton. Go back and put your flesh and blood and build it out. But if you already have a body of work, I think it would be a shame to waste it. Put it together, and then it stays, right? It's a handy tool or a compendium for people to come and take it rather than go and search for each blog individually.
Right. I see your point. Yeah. Okay. I always thought that, a blog is, how can I just repeat the same thing? It's like the same content again, putting it again into a form. It seemed to me like a lazy, in my mind, it seemed like a lazy, but I see your point. Maybe, the audience is different. And your point about that it's easy to just pick it up and read the whole thing rather than searching for each. I think that makes a lot of sense.
See what you're saying, Nirupama is saying that you can add, you can make it readable, but you have the blog, but let's say you add a little story or a case study with it, in my experience. And so same content with a little story and or a story or how they shifted. Could be an attitude, could be an approach, it could be a support. It could be anything that got them to shift from A to B, or it could be a story of failure. It could be a story of success.
Sure.
So if I may, I think, sir, you already have a book ready with you with so many inputs. You're already there, and we see the next book coming out. So get going. So when I started, I had only identified the words in words. So like the word that is opened up now is choice, and it has the word ice in it. So all I did initially was just write a 2-liner. I'll just read it out. A healing choice breaks the ice. So both the words come, choice and ice, around a heart frozen in pain. We all have the freedom to choose. So this is all I had started initially when I had those 60 words with me. So the background of the skeleton was already there. All I had to do is pick up the baby word, the parent word, and the 2-liners that I had written. And as Anita said, put a story, a personal experience, a riddle, and match the column, and so much more.
Okay. That's great.
So I think the wisdom of the group has not just emerged in sharing their stories of what gets them to write and with the busy schedules, but I think co-authoring has emerged, making a book from blogs has emerged. And I think we have Nishka, who's a book mentor here, who can support. We have writers here, and SheMantrans are so supportive. If you have an inner critic, just go to Nirupama. She will coach you on how to.
I have lots of inner critics in me. I'm constantly criticizing myself. That's a big issue.
Nirupama, you need to do a session on managing the inner critic to do the coaching.
I'm happy to do that. In fact, I have run workshops for people who are writers.
Can we do one for SheWrites?
Yeah, happy to offer
Lovely. Thank you. So all ideas are emerging.
And there are plenty of coaches, amazing coaches in SheMantra. I think they all would be able to do it. I'm happy to do it wearing a coach cum writer hat. Yeah,
I appreciate that. You're definitely on. We'll tell you when we'll fix a date when you're available, and we'll work backwards from there. How's that? Yeah.
And Nishka, the ghostwriter who's written 8 books. If you need a ghostwriter to finish your book, please reach out to us.
That's what I was saying. You're stuck. She's here to help you.
I'll gladly help, give advice, because I love the one thing that got me started on writing for others was when I read one article which said most of the books, business books in the world are written by a white man called John. So there are two things stopping us. One is white, one is man.
Yeah.
So I said with women, we get even more. Even now when I write, even for Indian audience, I don't get women coming to me to write a book.
Oh, really?
And if a woman comes to me, so most times it's I want to write a book. My husband needs help in writing a book.
Really?
I have
Really?
coached a woman in writing a book, which I'm very happy about, on learning and development. But yes, this usually is the men who come to me. So I would love to help women break that rule of,
I can
my
also
God,
offer help
this is
on your personal
amazing.
level, working on your inner demons of fear and judgments is where I can come in.
And
Okay,
Usha,
I'm just
Usha, we
curious,
are all going to be chasing you to
Yes,
write a
please
book.
do. Please
Okay.
do. Please do.
So maybe-
I think I need that chase. I need someone to breathe down my neck, and tell me when is it coming, because
Are you
I
are
think
you
I
on the
work with deadlines.
are you
I
on the
think that's where my
are you on the SheWrites group?
No, I'm not on the
Okay,
sheet.
please get on to it and let's see how we can support you. Isha, Smriti, Srividya, I know Kretki's been very active on the chat. Thank you for that. How can our wonderful writers support you? You're here obviously for a particular reason. How can they support you?
I think for now, I want to get regular on my writing. I have so many things that the ideas keep popping in, and then I park them for all the fears that we've already discussed. And the book that I have in my hand, I think I want to write it, but I want it to be anonymous for some reason. So yeah, all those demons, all those fears, I think need to be addressed for me to be talking about myself.
Are you in SheWrites group? Are you in the SheWrites group?
Yeah, very silently, yes.
Yes, she's there.
Okay. So we have got 1 page a day campaign started on the 4th of August. Will go on till 12th November. Hop on. What I'm noticing is it's not limited to 1 page. People have started to get the flow and they're writing 3 pages a day, which is going to make a 300-page book by the end of the 100th day. So looking forward to see you there in the campaign.
I have some other. Sorry, Anita. So some people are not as disciplined. I am one of them. I would say I would write 2 pages or 3 pages a day. It wouldn't always work. So I set up a challenge with my family that if I don't finish this book in 6 months, then I'm going to stop all sweets. And I love sweets. And they would threaten me, okay, 3 months left, mom, and Anju, my husband would say, they were really happy about the fact that I will give up my sweets. And they would eat cakes in front of me and say, okay, in 3 months, you're not going to be able to eat this. And that kept pushing me to say, whatever works for you.
Yeah, good. Yes, Smriti, your hand's raised.
Pooja has a question.
Yeah.
So let's hear Smriti. She has her hand raised. So
yeah, sorry, I was walking, so I kept my video. So I have some 80 hours of sessions I've done to motivate women as part of my inner circle. And they were all, like every week I would come up with something to help them build on our basic program. And I write on LinkedIn. And I have written 2 books, not written 2 books. I've put together 2 books. One is to commemorate my in-laws' 50th anniversary, and the second one that was dedicated to both of them as a book. So, which of course had other people writing in it. So, in a sense, co-authored it with other family members, and it's really inspiring. And the thing that I was thinking about, like with all the doubts and everything, that whenever I listen to my inner circle mastermind that I used to do, I myself get motivated. So there is something in it, but it's been a vague idea in my mind that maybe it can go into a book. Is it really worth it? Who's going to read it? So those are the things that have not put me on a path to writing my own book. So I don't know where I am with
just
it.
walk a few floors down to Nirupama's home. That's all. What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Walk together, Smriti, in the evening. We both go for a walk around the same time, so we should do that.
Yes.
So Smriti, as all the authors said, find your why. And if you
Yeah.
have, and having known you for you have your why. You do probably know your why, and you're very disciplined. So maybe a little brainstorm or a little bit of time that you want to put in may help you with any one of us, anyone. Get a coaching
Sure.
session from anyone. That reminds,
Yeah.
someone's at the door. Somebody wants to just take over from here for a minute.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, I
So
just
that she's gone, let's bitch about Anita.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very
I think
interesting.
let's talk.
Question.
Sorry,
Yeah.
go for it.
Go ahead. No, I just remembered something that my editor and publisher first asked me with all of this. So when I was writing my first book, Keep the Change, obviously new author, full of self-doubt. Is it good enough? Everybody's writing amazing books, and I'm writing this fun, little funny book about this girl. So I bumped into her at somebody else's book launch. So I just went there and I caught hold of her, and I said, very hesitantly, I said, I'm writing a book. I have about 3 chapters. Can you please take a look and tell me whether it's good enough? Can you share your email? Now, publishers are a slightly snooty bunch. At that time, she was not yet my editor. So she asked me, she said, if I don't give you any feedback, would you still continue writing? I said, yeah. Then she said, continue writing, finish the book, and then send it across to me.
Wow.
And that's what I did. And then, of course, then I got published by HarperCollins. So then I was like, I was so hesitant and saying somebody from the outside world has to come and validate and say, this is a worthy book, and I have to be assured that it will get published. Does that mean only then I will write? So, of course, it changes once you're an established author, you can, do it differently. But if you're writing for the first time, I would say my learning was I shouldn't let the, fear that it might not get published stop me from finishing something that I have started. It may not, I actually have to go in, of course, edit it and do a second draft. And the first version wasn't the best version, but once I finished it, that gave me so much confidence that, okay, even if it doesn't get published, I have a manuscript. And, then that is something to look forward to and do it. So I'd say for first-time writers, it's a good idea to stick with it and finish it and use feedback. Definitely, I think it's very important. If you have some trusted people, use feedback, but you may not get the guarantee that it will get published even after you finish. So I think just get the feedback, make sure you have your support circle, see if you can finish it, and then start worrying about the second part, which is the publishing process.
I think it's very important, like Nirupama said, to get that feedback. Send it to a couple of people from different walks of life. For me, it was, I needed to send it to parents who had kids for them to, read it to their kids and see how they find it. I'd been reading it to my children, but I wanted that. So I reached out to somebody who was a published author and I asked her to connect me to a publishing house. So she said, send me your book and I'll see. I sent her the book. And I think about 10 days later, I got to get a call from her that I don't know about the publisher. I will connect you to some. But I read the book to my child and I just want to thank you of how you made my life so easy. And it was such a wonderful read. So that was great validation for me. And then, of course, she connected me to some publisher who I didn't go with, but that's another story. But I think maybe, Anita, we could talk a little bit about publishing. That's
exactly the segue I wanted to do. So carry on.
So, when I wrote to a few publishers, either through somebody or directly, I got a few rejections because that was at that point of time, sex ed was a topic they didn't want to touch with a barge pole. They were all scared to touch that topic. And then, of course, the whole thought came out, okay, do I self-publish? I started researching. I also, Crossword was publishing books. I was researching on all of that. So my experience, whatever I researched at that point of time on self-publication was that, of course, you have to put in your own money, you have to print the books, and then comes this whole big thing of marketing it. How do you market that book, which will again involve putting in more money. I wasn't sure whether I was ready for not just putting in the money, but the fact that spending that kind of time and effort into figuring out how the distribution would be, how the marketing would be, because there's a whole lot of things involved in that, right? It's not just publishing, it's marketing, it's distributing, it's all of that. But then I was just fortunate that, two publishers seemed interested, and then I just worked along with them, and then I chose one ultimately. But even after going in for a renowned publisher, like I went with Om Books International, and, in spite of going with them, marketing is still something you still have to get into. You don't have to spend monies, but you still have to push them. You still have to ensure that they're putting you out there, because for you, it is your book, one book. For the publisher, it is one amongst lakhs of books that they publish. So you have to really push them. You have to give them marketing ideas. You still have to. And I still, after 4 years of my book being out there, I still keep sending them, hey, I'm going for this talk and they need some 50 books. Can you organize it? Or can I take my books here? So you have to continuously still do that. I don't know about self-publishing. If somebody's done that, maybe they can shed some light on that.
So
yes, I had gone for self-publishing, and I think that wasn't a good idea, because then there's a lot of stress on you, talking about the book, right, to the marketing aspect, explaining people when you go. Way of going,
you're on mute.
From the publishers, and you have your the publishers telling you to, if a change is needed, they come and tell you that, they come back and tell you that, okay, this is the change expected, or this will work, this will not work. When you're self-publishing, you don't have any critics as such, and I think that's not much a good idea, going in a self-publishing way, unless you don't want to kind of make it a big bestseller kind of, then it's fine. Otherwise, going a traditional way is always advisable. Lesson learned after publishing one book, I would say that.
Okay, thank you.
You're very right, Riddhi, about having an editor, because I think the difference which an editor made to my book was amazing. It's not just grammatical corrections, right? That's the easier one. But coming with a different perspective and saying, hey, how about this? And then you're having those discussions, those arguments, fighting to keep something, letting go of something, rewriting, thinking deeper. And ultimately, what emerges is definitely a better version. So having that editor makes all the difference, yes.
Yes, and although I say that I've kind of 2,000 plus books have been sold, but the amount of pains after that, you're not relaxed author. You are a stressed author, I would say, and you don't deserve that. When you're authoring, you need to be more creative. You need to have another line of books as well. So that's my journey, and I would rather go for a traditional publishing in my next book.
But I think also be ready for the...
Yeah, please.
Just one point, also be ready for the fact that whether you go for, even with a publisher, like Nirupama also said earlier, don't expect monies. In spite of my book being a bestseller, having won a Best Children's Book Award, and I know having, sold many copies, I haven't got a single penny in spite of having a contract for a percentage of the sales. So that is very difficult to come by.
Yeah, and I also want to add that even when you publish through traditional publishing, the marketing you still have to do on your own. They will do 2-3 press releases for you. Beyond that, you all have to do. And I have been speaking to authors in the US and all, asking them how did they create an author platform, because that's what everyone is talking about. And there is a lot of steps to it, but again, it's not like, you have to do it all in one go. But every day or every week, just set aside some time for sending your book to some publisher, some magazine, some place, so that you will get some feedback. Somewhere somebody will talk about your book. So it's to slowly just chip away at it. I have a friend of mine who recently published a book. It is for children. It is on writing. And she's gone through a publishing house. It's a small publishing house, but again, she's doing all the work. Like, she goes on to exhibitions, wherever there are school fairs, she goes there and puts her books. She talks about it. And that has to be a continuous process. That will always be there.
Yeah.
What the traditional publishers will give you, they'll give you a good infrastructure, good editor, good formatters, good typesetters. You have a distribution network that is there, but the rest of the work,
which is a big thing also, Nishka, having
which is a big thing. which
And
is
if they can also, you can also push them for a good book launch, because I think that makes all the difference. At least initially you're out there in the media.
Absolutely,
but you know
absolutely.
what
That makes a
happens?
difference.
That makes
Yeah.
a difference. But Anju, what happens many times? They do it at the last minute. They're telling you to, now talk about your book in the last month or so. Whereas if you had been talking about your book 3-4 months earlier, created more of a concentrated effort on it, that also helps, because they don't let you know, start working on your book till the last month of the book launch. Then there's absolutely no time to work on it.
But that's okay. Even after the book launch for months, I would take that clippings from the book launch. I had some celebs launching the book. So I would just take those clippings, put it out there. Even today,
That is
at every
it.
anniversary, I still put it
Yeah.
out there. So that continuous thing that the
Yeah,
roll-on
keep
still
your
keeps
media kit
happening.
ready and keep on
Yeah.
sending that is the main
I
thing.
think the key word you used, Anju, is push. You have to push yourself. You have to push the publisher. You have to really become a different person, I think, once the book is published. It's much easier in some ways, at least for me, to sit and write, and I have control. And then, as I was just telling somebody, you have to use a completely different power of yours to do the marketing part. It's a whole new journey once your book is out. Again, that goes back to the why. If you're saying, I just wanted to publish a book and I'm happy, sit back. But if you want people to read the book and then you want to get opportunity for the next book, I've seen the hard way that you have to get out there and push and plug and do all
And
of
it's
this.
also absolutely okay to say that I just want that one book because I want to be known as a published author and I want to be known as an expert on my subject. I think if that is your goal, that's absolutely okay. Don't be apologetic about it, because having that in your bio saying that you're a published
What happened here?
Anita, like in restaurants, when it is past 11, they switch off the light for a moment to tell you that it's time to leave. So that was like Anita's key. Okay, recording stop, ladies. Stop and go home. You get enough gyan.
I live in Mud Island, so my Wi-Fi goes off sometimes. So that's what happened. Okay, good. Does anyone have I know Pooja had a question earlier. We weren't able to answer it. Is she still around?
Yeah, now I have dropped her, Anita, but I think she was wanting to extend her gratitude. She felt very inspired. Certainly, she found that book in her and got connected with it through the panelists' discussion and your
wow.
moderation. Looking forward for her book then. Keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I just apologize for her not answering her talking earlier.
No worries.
I didn't want to disturb the flow, but yeah, thank you. Yes, Usha, there's a separate group for SheWrites. We'll send you we'll put the link again in the main group if anyone wants to join.
Let me put it here as well, Anita. I'll just put it here
might as well. Yeah, might as well. Anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask? Preeti, you've been quiet. Nothing? So it looks like we've answered a lot of questions, and Nirupama, I will be reaching out to you. I think your session would be extremely useful for the community, and we'll get Nishka on it too, because she has her own perspective being a book mentor and she does this for a living. I think we will be able to support people who are standing on the sidelines, or including me, and I'll be a student in that one.
That would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Yes, and there's Gauri and Isha and all of us who will, Ketki, all of us will probably join in. There'll be a few more. And I will invite the writers who are here to probably join the session, because even in the session, there can be contributions that you all can make. Something just pops up, and today so many things popped up which were not agenda, and I think everyone's walked away with a few tips of things that they can do, whether it's writing a blog or co-authoring, how to publish, pros and cons. It's a topic that can go on, and if somebody wants to self-publish, in our last session we had a whole list of self-publishing that places that were offered. We can add that as a resource and give it to those who want to self-publish, so that's it. So thank you, lovely ladies. I know y'all took time off to be here. And Anju, have a great trip and be well.
Thank you.
And Nishka, thank you for your support as always. Riddhi, good to see you. Thank you for sharing your book. And Mukta, your idea still is very compelling. And I hope, and my hope is that all of us find creativity. While we may have expertise in something, how can we be creative in that process? How can we look for, when I was in advertising, when we were creating a toothpaste, they said, oh my God, another toothpaste, right? How do you create that distinction? You find something new to say. You find something creative to say, even though it's a Me Too product. So you put in anything, there'll always be a book that you can look at. So does it mean you're going to stop? Not necessarily. I think it's nice to just look for creative ways of expression and find something that's like Mukta did, like Anju did. Nirupama had written fiction and then she moved to nonfiction. Riddhi talked about her personal story from her journals from her childhood. I think we have to look for the signs of what is showing up for us. And I think because we are kind of, I can't do it mode, I think we don't look for the signs clearly enough. So with that, I guess we can close today's session. And thank you, Deep. I know you've been traveling for the last 1 hour and she's still here.
Where are you, Deep? Which city? How much are you traveling?
I know.
Are you in Bombay, Deep?
Gurgaon and Gurgaon's traffic, Anju.
Okay, that's even worse.
Okay.
Thank you, thanks. It was
Thank
really enjoyable. It was really useful. Thank you so much.
So I hope you got the link to join SheWrites. And
yeah, if you all could just put it on the WhatsApp group as well, please. Because I'm on the iPad right now, so I don't know whether I can join.
Fair enough. We'll do that. We'll do that.
I open the link and it goes to WhatsApp Business. I'm a little confused. I'll open it from the main. It's there, right?
Yeah, it should take you to SheWrites, ideally.
Okay. I'll check it out. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay,
I
guys.
think maybe next time you
Thank you
have
so
this,
much.
Anita. With the next set of writers you have, one more thing you can add to this conversation is the title of your book. How important.
Yes. Yes.
Because in this, on the shelf where you're fighting for shelf space, what attracts a person first is, of course, the colors, the title.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you.
That's something you can pick up next time with your next set of writers.
Indeed. Well, we have a session next month. Well, let's see how we take it from here there. Okay. Ciao.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being there. Thank you, Anita.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, writers.
Thank you.
Bye.
I think Preeti's on and not on.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, just removed Anita. Thank you once again. Well hosted, and you look so spectacular. What do you do to yourself when you moderate? Oh my gosh.
Just
Very
in my
beautiful.
thank you. Just in my element. Just love it. I haven't met so many people, but you still know them. They're like ghar ka, you know them. So it's fun.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I can stop.
I love your kaftan style dress. What are you wearing, Anita?
I'll show you. Oh, we'll close the recording because that's what they're going to see then.
Yeah. We must.
Style. You want to stop the recording or should I?
You will have to. It's recording on your